Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. And
Yeah,
we've
how are
both
you?
had quite a week, but we have all this stuff to cover. And I want to say we're having Vince Redmond on in a little while. And then we've got two guests, Jonah and Ellen Zimmerles from the Maplewood, New Jersey bookstore, which is seeking to hire individuals who are on the spectrum. So that's all coming up. And we've got a bunch in the news. But as always, I don't get to see Nancy very much anymore.
So we catch up when I come in.
And it's always this, what's going on?
Right.
And you've had a lot of stuff going on, and you said you're willing to talk about it.
I've been going through a difficult time. Wyatt had a seizure a week ago Saturday, and he had had one 6 months earlier, and we had gone to have him checked out, and they said there was no seizure activity at that time in the MRI, and so they didn't put him on meds, but now this is the second one, and it was pretty severe. He was stopped breathing, lost consciousness, turned blue. And I've been trying to navigate where to take him, what the next steps are, what tests, what doctor will treat him, who can get him in. And it's
overwhelming.
It's totally overwhelming. I mean,
and there's an element of fear to it. We were just talking about that it's like, when is he going to have another one, and will he be okay? And the whole concept of feeling like he is safe is rattled for you right now.
Exactly.
And I don't think you're the only person watching. We've got people watching that I'm sure have been down this path. And I think it's important, because we were just talking about anxiety and fear and all those things. I think it's important to acknowledge when something is real and say, my anxiety is appropriate.
Right.
And then to take action to make sure that you're doing everything that you can, but acknowledging the things you can't be in control of.
Exactly.
So, and you're doing all of that.
I'm waiting. That's why I've got my phone here in case they call from Children's Hospital.
We'll go to a commercial, because I think you guys get it better than anybody else does.
I'm sure there are lots of parents out there whose children have seizure disorder, and they understand this.
Yes. And the way our healthcare moves at a pace of, it can be dizzying how slow things can move.
And there are lots of tests involved with this. It's not just one visit.
Right. And, for people who don't know and haven't dealt with seizures, when a child has the first seizure, they'll look at it exactly as you said to see if there's more stuff going on. But a lot of times when somebody has one seizure, they go, it's one seizure.
That's what they did.
Right? But then when you have a second seizure, then everything changes and they go, okay, because it's just like autism. If you have one seizure, you do not have a seizure disorder. When you have two, they assume that you do and will proceed as if you do. So, and especially the fact that he had a seizure where he lost consciousness and wasn't breathing.
Right.
I mean, that's a really, if I were you, I would be filled with anxiety about that too. But I applaud you, Nancy, that she's not just sticking her head underneath the covers, right? Because I'm sure you would like to.
Yes.
Right? But she's not. She's taken steps, saw one doctor, then found out that she should see a different doctor, is taking steps, and is waiting for the phone call. You're in the hard part.
Okay.
You're taking the action, and you haven't seen the benefit of it yet.
Right.
Your fears have not been allayed yet, but
they haven't.
But you're doing the right thing. You're taking the action.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're awesome sauce.
All right.
Well, I think sometimes it feels upside down, right?
The whole world feels, and of course I don't have a spouse to help me with this.
Yes. Which makes it like extra tough, because
makes
you're
it
carrying
really
the whole
tough.
thing.
I have
all
no
the decisions are on you.
Husband to help me with these decisions. So.
Yes, but you know that you have friends that you can bounce things off. Whatever, it's not the same.
Right.
It won't ever be the same. But I know for a fact that we have all of us collectively, all of you watching and us at the table here, have felt like we were alone at some point in this journey. And I always go back to the fact that that's what it feels like. And I love the thing that says fear is false evidence appearing real. And I had the dream many years ago that I was standing there. There was this crazy dream. I was standing there, and this car pulled into a parking garage, and it started tumbling, and it was a convertible, and there was this woman with this big jacket, and as she tumbled out of the car and her jacket would roll, a baby would fall out every time she would roll, and there would be somebody in the parking garage who would pick the baby up and save it, and she would continue rolling, and babies kept falling out, and she rolled all the way through the parking garage until the end when she got to me, and I caught her in my arms and stopped her, and she looked at me, and it was me. And because, you know, your dreams are always crazy, she looked at me and she said, "Oh my gosh, did you just see what happened to me? Did you just see what I went through?" And I said to her, "Did you see how many people's arms you were in?"
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "No, I didn't see that." And for me, that was a metaphor for the fact that I felt going through autism, that it was this thing that a lot of times that I was going through alone.
Right.
But when I look back on it now, I see that I was in your arms, and I see that I was in our therapist's arms, and of course I was in my husband's arms. Sometimes I didn't feel that way because it felt like it was me deciding. So I'm telling you, I know it feels like you're alone, but you're in a lot of people's arms right now. All the people watching, you're in there. There are people saying prayers for you and your kid that you don't know in corners of this world. You are in people's arms, and maybe you don't feel it yet, but it's there. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
And for those of you watching, same thing. You know, how many times are you sitting someplace and thinking about the people that we don't know that are going through this? I know you think about that. And you know, that even if we don't know you, there are times that I say a prayer for, you know, just any mom that is feeling alone right now. Right? And there are times when I'm in a meeting and we're trying to figure out what to do, and I'm like, no, we have to think about the mom who doesn't have access to this. How are we going to do that? And, you know, we're people that you don't know are thinking about you always, about all of us. So you're in our arms, babe.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Should we do news really quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
This first one, a blood test for autism.
Yeah.
But they're saying not so fast because it's not, even if validated, could not be used to screen for autism in the general population.
Yeah.
Because it has to do with genetic, the proportion of amino acids.
The thing about it is that, you know, you're going to see in the news all over the place, oh, blood test for autism, and everybody's going to feel like they can rush out and get it. But really what they have found is that if you just give it to everyone, it's not effective at determining. When it is shown to be effective is when you have people that are high risk for autism because they already have a sibling that's on the spectrum.
Right.
So I just know that when mainstream media gets a hold of this, we're going to get a bunch of
blood test for autism, right?
News.
It'll be like a headline,
right? And then,
but it says the test accuracy would be less than 8% for the general population.
Yes. So not useful in terms of that. That'll give false flags. You know, that concerns me too, because, you know, I don't know about false flags.
Right.
Everybody says, oh, we've diagnosed all these kids that don't have autism, when I think it's far more often the other way around.
And this is in spectrumnews.org if you're interested.
Yeah, and then there was an article that I thought was really interesting. Everybody knows who Sacha Baron Cohen is, and Sacha Baron Cohen has been all over the news lately and is being sued 68 days from Sunday. But what you may not know is that he has a cousin.
Is that his cousin?
That is his cousin.
I had no idea that Simon Baron Cohen was his cousin.
Cohen is his cousin, and he is one of the leading researchers in the world of autism. And he's really the one who, the whole Sally Ann test for perspective taking is Simon Baron Cohen's.
Okay.
I mean, he's very respected.
Yes, he is, very much
so. So he has an article that's out right now, and the title of it is Genetic Studies Intend to Help People with Autism Not Wipe Them Out. I think it's a really good read, and I'm not seeing
it's really something that you need to go and take a look at. Let's see.
But I'm not seeing what the source is.
It's newscientist.com.
Okay, thank you.
Newscientist.com, and he talks about how the fear of using genetic studies could cause eugenics.
Exactly.
Which is, you know, that if a parent found out they had a child that was likely to have autism, they would terminate the pregnancy.
Exactly.
And that this has been done a lot with Down syndrome and all of the, you know, ethical questions that raises.
And we see in our self-advocates in the community that they have grave concerns about when your trying to do genetic studies. What will it mean? I understand completely their fears, and I think that Simon Baron-Cohen does too, and that's what this article is about. I know that you have fears about this. I know you have ethical concerns about this, but as one of the leading researchers, I want you to know what my intentions are and what good can come from this,
Right.
and that you're cutting yourself off, from things that really could benefit your community and create more funding and create more awareness. And I'm not looking to wipe you out.
Yes.
I just thought it was
it could
really
give a heads up for
good read.
early intervention.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the main reasons.
Absolutely. But it really could mean a great deal in terms of funding as well.
Yes, it could.
Which our self-advocates are always saying, where is the funding for adults? And so he's making the case here saying, here's what you should know. I want to give you the facts and let you know where I'm coming from as one of the leading researchers. So I think I just wanted to bring it up, and it's a fun thing that he is the cousin of Sacha Baron Cohen. Kind of a odd little combo platter. And then I thought this was particularly interesting.
I didn't see the article on this. I just saw the headline.
Did she not include?
No, I didn't get my article, so you're going to have to cover this one for me.
All right, that's fine. But you and I have had this conversation before about, and I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, that when your husband Reed was in his end days, he was in a memory care place where you were there all the time, and I came from time to time, and we really were spending time with people in the facility and seeing what memory care is like. And you were the first one to say to me, you were like, have you noticed that it's like looking at the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
These adults are reverting to an adult form of autism.
Right.
That there were similarities.
Very, very big similarities.
And I don't hear other people talking about that, Nancy.
I actually talked to RFK Jr. about that.
Did you?
Yes, and he said that there is some research backing that up.
Okay, interesting. But so there's a new theory, what we're talking about, that there is a germ that is causing Alzheimer's, and that along with this, that there are a biomarker that they're finding genetically that could see that someone is predisposed to, if they're exposed to this germ, that then they would be more likely to have autism. So I just thought that this was interesting because we've had lots of people talking about autism as an autoimmune response, that the brain has, and where is that coming from? Why does that we see in the brains of individuals who are on the spectrum that the brains are typical, and that then something happens at some point and the brain changes, it almost speeds up. And the brain develops way too fast to allow to make all the connections that it would make in the neurotypical brain. That it will put emphasis in some areas of the brain as opposed to others, which is why you have somebody like Temple Grandin who has that visual cortex that is so much bigger than a normal person's, right? But people have been saying for a while, we think there's an autoimmune response, but what is it in reaction to? And now they're postulating the idea that it could be a germ, and that germ could also be causing Alzheimer's. It's just a fascinating little thing.
Okay, where's that article from?
We're not seeing it. MedPage
MedPage
today.
MedPageToday.com.
There we go. All right, we've got to take a break so that we can come back and talk to Vince Redmond, licensed marriage and family therapist who used to be a behavioral, therapist. So he knows this thing inside and out, and he's going to be talking with us, so stick with us.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Johansson, and this is My Little House.
My Little House is an interactive, multisensory educational felt toy that I invented to help develop children's language skills.
I love My Little House.
I've been working as a speech therapist for over 20 years. I have spent my entire career working with young children. I work with children with language delays, and I have many children with significant cognitive disabilities and children on the autism spectrum. It has been a constant challenge finding toys that are fun, educational, and actually engage my students. In every preschool, since I've been a young therapist, we carry on these felt boards. Kids love them because they're soft and they're fluffy, and there's usually these little pieces that attach to these boards because felt sticks onto felt. You bring them into the activity because they're putting a piece on the board. So it's almost kind of like magic. So then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this one-dimensional board and make it into an actual three-dimensional toy? How cool would that be?
That's the idea behind My Little House. You can spread it out flat like a 4-panel felt board, or here's the cool part. In the blink of an eye, My Little House easily converts into a 3-dimensional reversible house.
This is the outside. This is the inside.
My Little House comes with 36 felt cutout pieces that match outlines in 8 colorful rooms. And they're felt, so they stick. Each piece inside My Little House has been placed with purpose.
For instance, in the kitchen, whole, half, under, on top, inside, big, bigger, and biggest, empty and full, circle, triangle, inside, outside.
Really cool thing, I have a nonprofit, Lecotech. They are the folks that put out the Differently Abled Guide for Toys R Us. They've been doing it for 25 years. They gave me their seal of approval as a toy that they feel is a toy with purpose, and that will make a difference. But My Little House isn't just for kids on the spectrum or with significant disorders. It's also for typically developing 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a fun toy.
Oh, this is so soft. That piece goes.
Recently, I took My Little House to the American Speech and Hearing Association convention in Philadelphia, and the response from my peers was overwhelming. Hundreds of therapists, teachers, and heads of school districts wanted to order them.
It was real validation for me that this truly is a toy that needs to get out there.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud autism mom, I'm a former educator, and I am the host of Autism Live. And as all 3 of those things, I want to recommend to you My Little House. This is one of the smartest toys I have ever seen for teaching language to kids who have emerging language. Whether they're on the autism spectrum or completely neurotypical, it's a great, fun, reinforcing toy, but it's especially great for our kids that are on the autism spectrum because it makes learning fun and it makes it tactile. They have these felt shapes and they get to match them up. And I'm telling you, even the adults love to play with this. We loved this toy so much that we wanted to be able to bring it to you at a great discount. So right now, if you will go to www.smartfelttoys, and when you get to the coupon code, put in a-live.com, you'll get $5 off. Isn't that great? So I want to encourage you, go and get My Little House for all the kiddos in your life. You guys have written in some questions, in particular on YouTube. Well, there's one on Facebook. So on Facebook, Jacqueline says, my son is 8.5 years old. How do you get the child to go with you to the store? And this is a story that I tell all the time, that when Jem was little, I would try to take him to the store, and I love shopping.
I hate shopping.
And there's a lot of people who hate shopping, and I grew to hate shopping because Jem did not love going to the store.
Not many kids on the spectrum do.
Right. Well, and I don't even know that many kids that particularly love going to the store. And
right.
But we would get ginormous tantrums in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would try to run in, get what I could. A lot of times I would get hit in the head.
Right.
And it was just a horrible, horrible time in the grocery store. Card stepped in, and because they made me make a list of what are the issues that you're having and what do you need help with. And one of the things I said was, I need help with shopping. And so they set up a whole program, and the first time they took us to the store, I just got to shop. I didn't have to do anything. They dealt with Jem. They taught him how to hold his little hand on the shopping cart. They prompted him, and he was a runner. So he would try to run away from me and go to something else, go out the store. So they set up rules for him. They reinforced him. They did all the good ABA stuff, and they sort of set it up. Right? Which I was never good at. Then the next time they came back, we went back to the grocery store, and they said, okay, now this time you're going to shop, and you're going to be in charge of him, and we're only going to talk to you. We're not going to talk to him. And they would say things to me like, now give him, you know, a 5-second warning that we're going to leave the cereal aisle in 5 seconds. And it made it so that I could go to the store with him, and I still love going to the store with him. And they made sure that there were things that reinforced him. They had, at one point we had a sticker chart where if he didn't do certain behaviors, he got whatever he wanted at the checkout.
Right.
And then we flipped it, and he had to, you know, he had to earn things by doing other behaviors,
Right.
being
The
helpful.
checkout
putting
is always
things
a
in.
big issue because that's
Of
where they have all
course.
that candy.
It's
and
deliberate.
that it's terrible. That's
It's
where I had
deliberate.
my problems. So
Right.
I had to prep in advance what Wyatt could get.
Yes.
Other than the things at the checkout, or what things he could get at the checkout.
And a lot
if
of
they were
times
allowed.
there's a discussion in the parking lot about when we go in, here's what we're going to do, and having the visual schedule, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and if you do X, Y, and Z, you will get this.
Right.
You know, and in the beginning, by the way, we didn't do that at the end. It was, if you do this, this, and this halfway through the store, you will get this treat. It has to be reinforcing for them. You have to institute rules. You have to follow through on them, and that has to be reinforcing for them. But I know I'm at stores now all the time with Jem, and he's great. He's like the best person to take to the store. But you go to the store with Wyatt all the
I go
time.
to the store with
I've
Wyatt. He
been
goes
to
to the
store
grocery
with Wyatt.
store, and he's fine.
lovely.
Yeah, if he has
He
a list
shops.
of things to look for, he helps me. He wants to push
Yeah.
the cart. He doesn't want me to push the cart.
Yeah.
Sometimes at the checkout, we still have a little issue of him wanting something, but I try to deal with that beforehand. But yeah, we give him things to do.
Okay, we're hearing that Vince
we
is
have
ready.
Vince.
We can
We better
have
get
Vince
to him,
weigh in
yeah,
on this
because
too.
we don't know how long
Vince,
we have him.
we're thrilled to have you. And for those of you who didn't know, Vince Redmond, licensed marriage and family therapist, but somebody who worked as a behavioral therapist for many, many years, is actually featured in the video Recovered. Vince, we're so thrilled and lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. So what's the topic? What were we just talking
Well,
about?
we talked, Wyatt had a seizure, his second seizure, and now we're investigating whether he has seizure disorder. I'm dealing with trying to get him into specialists, testing, all of that. And obviously my anxiety is, well, it's through the roof.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's on the ceiling.
And, you know, we've talked about parental anxiety before and what you can do, but also it brought up the topic of, this is the second time he's had to go to the hospital for a seizure, how to language that to your kids so they understand what's going on and aren't completely petrified themselves of the situation.
Right. Well, first off, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that,
Thank
that
you.
he had another seizure. I know it's been a long time since he had one. So
He had one
That's
6
scary.
months ago, and that was the only one he'd ever had. And now he's had another one that was a grand mal seizure. And now it looks like once you've got two, you've got to take this more seriously and investigate medications and that kind of thing.
right. And like you said, that's scary for everyone. I mean, everyone's anxieties are now heightened. And I think, that, you know, for first thing is controlling our own anxiety, right? Making sure that we get the answers that we need from the doctors and talking with them. But as for Wyatt, he doesn't know what's going on, right? This
Right.
is just something that happens to him. And we, you know, without getting into all the medical jargon and so forth, we need to just let him know that, you know, something in his brain is short circuiting and it's kind of turning him off for a little bit. And the doctors are going to help us keep you on. Right? So that we can put it maybe more in terms that he would understand, but feel a little bit more confident and comfortable that mom is working with the doctors. We feel good about it. We're going to be able to take care of this. The other thing is making sure he feels that he did nothing wrong, right? There was nothing that he did that made him feel this way or that
He actually
did.
said to me, I'm sorry I had a seizure after it was over. So that's something that's important to know.
See, exactly, and that's what I was thinking, is that a lot of times our kids will feel bad that they, you know, they see the anguish in mom's face when they come to, they see all the people and, you know, hospitals and, you know, emergency rooms and all this, and they feel that they're responsible for these things, and these are things that obviously, you know, they don't have anything to do with the result of it. So first thing we want to do is ease that anxiety, ease the anxiety of there's nothing wrong, you're okay, we're gonna take care of you. This was something that just happened, so that it brings that anxiety down for them, and they're a little bit more receptive then at that point to actually learn maybe a little bit more of what happened, so that, you know, if you're seeing a doctor or you're getting a consult, they don't have any guilt, they don't have any sense of anxiety that they're going to go to the doctor and the doctor is going to say that they did something wrong, that they, are going to get in trouble in a way. I know sometimes this doesn't seem rational for us, but if we put ourselves in his shoes, when he sees anguish, he sees upset, he sees a lot of stress in people's minds or in their faces and their bodies when he comes to, he immediately thinks that he did something wrong.
Right. So that's important to know. Yeah.
Okay, we had a question that came in from a viewer that we've had a lot of people asking this, and it really comes hand in hand with some anxiety with parents. In this particular question, she says, I have a 9-year-old with autism and intellectual disability, some speech, but lacking full communication skills. She says, would it be wise to take her out of school at this point and put her in a 40-hour intensive ABA program? She's tested at a mental age of 2 to 4 years old, but she will be 9 years old this month. And we have a lot of parents that are asking this question. They've heard that you can take somebody out from medical necessity, but I know that for parents, they get a lot of pushback from the school on this, Vince. And I wondered if you could address that a little bit about how to prioritize whether you should do this or not.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I think we have a lot of families that come to us with the same type of question. I think the first thing comes to assessments, right? Is doing all the formal assessments as well as an assessment for applied behavior analysis, ABA therapy, to really see if this is the right modality for them that would help their child learn, right? With intellectual disabilities and autism, each kid learns in different ways. It could be with more visuals, more audio, more, sometimes it could be more selective learning. So what we want to do is do a full analysis, full, assessment, looking at all, IEP goals, looking at the assessments they've done in school, see what learning processes have been successful with them at school, and then again, assessing them for the appropriateness of ABA, so that we can then present a full comprehensive report to see if, in fact, we believe that prioritizing ABA and more one-to-one learning would be more effective than school learning.
Wonderful. Because I know that's a really tough decision to make about, and schools will, try to tell you that your child has to be in school. But there are laws that say if your child has something that's medical necessity, that you can pull them out. We had another question, and I don't know if you want to take it, Vince. It's pretty intense. How can you help a child with autism to talk? That's a big question.
How do you help a child with autism to talk? And again, it's a very broad question. The way we do it is we break it down into individual skills, right? We break it down into little individual steps. Either it be first just doing enunciations of sounds, and then echoics of words, and then repeating multiple word sentences. Teaching them how to request things or demand for things, right? We withhold something that they might want until we can get some type of an approximations, and then they get access, right? We make that connection that you use language to get things that are desired and preferred, right? If it's labeling things or tacting things, right? We take preferred items and have them, again, do echoics and try to get them to just imitate what the word would be. So it'd be milk or cat or, toy or anything that they're interested in. And we build those individual steps into longer utterances, longer sentences that are a little bit more meaningful. When we get a good base of that, then we look at what's called interverbals, which is your social communication, your abilities to then communicate socially with others and saying hi and other pleasantries, byes, thank yous. Getting them to being able to ask questions of another and so forth. So it really starts very small, very basic, and very repetitive, and can continue to grow out the child's life so that it becomes more abstract, complex, especially when you're getting into those, interverbals and social interactions. So I think a lot of our kids, hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of our kids that come to us don't have any language when they start. They don't have language, and they of course don't have speech. And we're able to, using ABA and using verbal behavior methods, we're able to break down their needs and teach them the individual steps that are necessary to be able to either vocally speak language or to be able to have speech through augmentative communication devices and things of that nature.
And I want to say too, I know it's a plug, but because I love it, Skills for Autism, and the number is 877-975-4559 if you're a person who prefers to call. That's all those things that Vince just talked about, the lessons, the curriculum for that is in skillsforautism.com. And you can get them there. And it's relatively inexpensive to get it. It's a monthly subscription. But if it isn't something that you can afford, you can apply for a grant from Autism Care and Treatment Today. Starting on October 1st, you're having an open grant phase, and they can, and I know that's one of the grants that you guys love to give because for you guys it's inexpensive.
And it's something we can make.
There you go. So I want to put that out there. Vince, we love you. We're out of time, which I hate because there are so many things that we could talk about. But thank you so much for being with us and for being such a light. For people who don't know, you're the director of Card Family Services and offer a whole host of services to be able to help support families. How can people get a hold of you?
They can reach me at my email address, v.redmond, REDMOND, at centerforautism.com.
We adore you, Vince. Thank you so
Vince.
much for being with us. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break.
We've got great guests coming up that started a bookstore called Words, in parentheses. And
I thought it was called the Maplewood, New Jersey store, but so that's where I'm confused.
Words Bookstore. Words.
But it's in Maplewood, New Jersey.
Well, I think they're opening
I subscribed to the
one.
Facebook group, and there was Maplewood in it, but I'm confused.
It's called Words, for
I'm
sure.
completely out
It's
in left
called
field.
Words, and they're opening up a second one now, is my understanding.
Okay.
So we'll find out. Yeah, they're in Livingston.
Okay.
Words will be opening a second branch in Lifetown in Livingston within the next few months. So we're going to talk to and I'm going to butcher their name, the Zimales. We'll find out when we get back.
When they're here. Stick with us.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you'd really like to do? At this school, we ask the kids, what is your goal? What is your dream? Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in computer animation and visual effects. I think young people with autism are totally underestimated.
When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They all have different talents, different skills, and what surprised me is that there really are no limits, that if these guys believe that they can do something, they really can.
It's estimated that 90 to 95% of young adults with autism are unemployed or underemployed.
A lot of young adults still live at home. A lot of them suffer from depression and are very isolated from the rest of the world, and the opportunities for them are very limited.
We want to develop careers for our young adults. Our full-time program runs 3 years, at the end of which we have job placement and job coaching. We have a work readiness program. We also have our own in-house studio so that when our students graduate, they can do on-the-job training and work on real projects.
We outsourced about 30-40 shots to the team here. They did fantastic work that we can put into a movie and be proud of it. It's great. I mean, we want to do it again.
The studio is their first step into the professional world, the first step in their new careers as digital artists.
The whole purpose is to get the students out into the real world.
We all have the same dreams. We want significance, dignity, and purpose with our lives. We have an opportunity to give those 3 words to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
This is my first full-time, full-paying job. I primarily work in After Effects. I learned After Effects at Exceptional Minds. It seemed like a good place for me to fit in because I was interested in animation.
Right from the first day that Nicky set foot in our company, he was producing work for us. We saw what level of professionalism is being instilled in them from the very beginning.
This was the first opportunity where Nicky could combine something he loved to do with something he was really, really good at that could eventually lead to employment.
When we first met Kevin, he was working at a supermarket bagging groceries, and they said he would never amount to anything else.
I work at Stargate Studios, and I'm a junior compositor. I mainly do like rotoscoping right now, and I'm still learning.
I think that you find great talent in the most amazing places. The students at Exceptional Minds have had a fair amount of training to get them ready for the visual effects environment.
If it wasn't for Exceptional Minds, I might still be at the supermarket, and I might be living at my parents' house.
Everything's changed. Nicky has purpose.
It feels like I'm a member of society now.
He's capable of making it on his own.
Once you get inside and you see what's really happening there, you immediately want to be a part of it.
It's the dream factory, you know, the movie business, and if you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
At Exceptional Minds, we like to say that we are changing lives one frame at a time.
And we are back, as promised, with our guests, Jonah and Ellen Zimiles, who are coming to us from, are you coming to us from Maplewood, New Jersey?
Today, actually, New York City, but in general, we're in Maplewood.
Okay, in general, you're in Maplewood. And in 2009, you opened the Words bookstore. That's Words spelled, you see it on the screen there. And it's helped over 100 individuals with autism work in its vocational training program. What, first of all, you have amazing backgrounds. Ellen, you're Managing Director in Financial Services Advisory and Compliance, Segment Leader at Navigant, what a mouthful that is, a global consulting firm where you specialize in financial crime investigation and compliance. You've been, you were an Assistant United States Attorney in the Southern District of New York for more than 10 years. You were a partner in a Big Four accounting firm. Jonah, you have a very impressive background. You practiced law for over a dozen years before spending 6 years as a stay-at-home dad after your son Daniel was diagnosed with autism. And you went on back to school at age 50 and received an MBA from Columbia University's Graduate School of Business. Whew, and if it's, so that's not enough, you're both co-chairs of the Night of Too Many Stars, and you've been presented with the Maplewood Chamber of Commerce Distinguished Service Award. So lots of amazing things in your background.
Boy, you guys are slouches.
You're making me feel like a slouch,
right?
That's for sure.
Wow. And then on top of that, this amazing bookstore. We want to know what motivated you to open Words.
Well, it was Ellen's idea, so I'll let her tell the story.
So Jonah and I wanted to have some sort of vocational program. You know, people with autism are adults much longer than their children. And we wanted to make sure that not only our son, but others would have, you know, a meaningful life, a meaningful and productive adult life. And so we were trying to figure out what was the best way to do that, how could we do that. And even in my firm, you know, we had hired a few people with autism, but not on a large scale. And we tried to figure out how we could do this in our town, Maplewood, New Jersey, which is a lovely town and very heterogeneous, very, you know, sort of very yummy. And we saw that there was a bookstore. It was a small bookstore on the side street that was, you know, that was going out of business and wanted to sell to a local, you know, business owner.
And that was in September.
Labor Day. That was Labor Day
2008, right when our son was about 12 then.
Right. And so I came home and said, Jonah, what do you think if we buy the bookstore and we turn that into a vocational program, you know, in a real business, and we do this as a real business. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I've never run a bookstore, never done
Or
anything.
any kind of retail.
Or any kind of retail, right, since I think he was a bag boy at a supermarket. But it was, if you remember, 2008 was sort of a tough time. And there were some big storefronts empty, and Maplewood was hurting a bit. So within 24 hours, Jonah came back to me and said,
Sure, whatever you say, dear. But I had suggested that instead of being on the side street in a small space, which first of all I thought would be very crowded and very difficult for particularly kids with autism to move around. It was always kind of hard to bring our son into the bookstore. Right. Plus, we wanted to help the town out, and so we thought that if we moved to a really big space, the largest storefront in the middle of town, that would both help the community more and also be a better spot for our for workers as well as kids who are visiting the bookstore.
So that was the start of it, and so we so September is when we started had the idea. By November we had the deal with the owner, and we spent then those last 2 months in that space, in the smaller space, learning a little bit about what it's like to go through the holiday season in a bookstore, which is quite a time to learn it. And then by January 20th, 2009, it was Inauguration Day, we opened up Words on the main street, the bigger space on the main street.
Wow.
And how did you go about recruiting young people with autism and getting them involved? Tell us about your program for them.
Yeah, the first thing I quickly learned was not only, I knew that I didn't know much about the book industry or about retail, but I also learned that while I felt very comfortable with people with autism because of my son and his friends and classmates and people who I worked with, that I didn't know that much about vocational training. And we quickly received offers from schools to bring people in to do job sampling and things like that, and that served as a good model. One of the things we had been hoping to work on, and we've done some work with, is when people in New Jersey, and I think in many states, special needs kids can go to school through age 21, but then they, transition out, and it's often called falling off the cliff. And we were hoping to help provide transition services, which we've been able to do some as well. So we do both kids in high school, or ages 18 through 21, and then also some young people at 21, and now we've expanded to some adults as well.
And we also wanted to make the store a place that anybody could really go to, and that people with special needs would feel very comfortable in. And so we trained our staff about people with special needs, because not the whole staff had necessarily had exposure to that and didn't know how to, what they should expect or how to behave. And so we did a training with them. There was an organization that came in to train them, and that was very helpful. So people could freely sort of ask questions, but know that this is sort of a safe space, and that people come in and they make noise or they do something. That's okay. This is a place where they are accepted and welcomed, and families can bring the entire family there.
Yeah, I'd love to just chime in on that for a second if I could, because I think it's just so important that, and fortunately, the situation seems much better today than it was a decade ago, but there were a lot of families of people with autism who were reluctant to bring their kids out into the community and felt very awkward and uncomfortable. I remember when our son was small, going to stores and feeling very uncomfortable about it, and we thought that it could be very helpful to those families to know there was always a place to go. And in fact, also to model for other businesses in the community that it was fine to have families with autism visiting, and we quickly got our name known, and we had plenty of kids with autism visiting, and it's always a tremendous pleasure when that happens.
And then Jonah did something else which I thought was really terrific. He created a program called Second Sundays, which is the second Sunday of every month, and we bring in people, all different kinds of people, whether it's someone cooking or sewing or theater or dance or karate, to sort of expose people with autism to those different events. Oh, there, you've got some. Okay.
Yeah, a free one, right.
Right, and so it's free. Anyone came in, we start out with different sort of sets, but that's our son up there in the white karate outfit.
Okay.
But we wanted to expose them to different kinds of things. You never know what someone's going to like unless they get exposed to it. So I remember we had someone who did sewing. It was more like a needlepoint,
Yeah,
you know,
a
and
picture of it. Yeah.
yes, right, needlepoint with sort of, you know, on burlap with large sort of, you know, big needle and large wool, and he loved it. And I was very surprised. I had no idea he would like it that much, or that his, you know, his fine motor coordination would be really appropriate for it, and it was great for him. So you never know until you until you expose people. So that was sort of another thing that Jonah actually created that was very impressive. That is,
It's amazing what you guys, I mean, it's a gift to your community in so many different ways that you guys have created this, but this isn't the first time that you've made forays. Talk a little bit about the other ways that you are involved in the autism community.
So maybe you can talk about your employment thing.
right. Yes. So again, it is putting your money where your mouth is here. So when I had started a company, again, 2006, I guess is when we started this, and I felt like, look, if I'm running this company, I'm going to have some people with autism who work here. And so once we get started, not very far into it, I think I started in June 2006. By January 2007, we had our first employee who was with me still today. And we looked around and we went to an organization that, you know, that sort of trained people, and we interviewed 3 different people, and we picked actually the one that was most challenged, because the other 2 were fine. One had a job, the other one, it was barely perceptible that she had any issues. And we said, it's really not that much of a, you know, challenge or that much of a big deal to hire other people. We wanted to hire the more challenging person. And we did, and when we told the agency that we were hiring that one that was most challenged, they said, what are you, who, which one? And we told them, and we explained why, and it was terrific. And you would not have known this, because during the interview, she was very, not particularly communicative. She talked, and she in response to questions, but not particularly, you know, involved. And when she was told that she got the job, the people at the agency said she screamed up and down. She was so happy and so excited that she actually got this job, that you don't really know what's going on inside somebody. And
We're gonna ask you to pause for just 1 second. Nancy's gonna step out to take a call. I'm gonna continue on. We've been waiting for a phone call from a doctor, and we're gonna ask our viewers, beg their pardon, while Nancy, we're not even gonna go to break. We're gonna have her step in front of the camera. So that we can keep you guys here, because when a doctor calls, you got to do what you got to do.
You know, in fact, I wanted to comment on that if I could. We do about 100 author events a year at our bookstore, and traditionally at these events, and particularly, you know, in bookstore events, something like that, people are often say, everyone silence your phones and turn your phones off. And in fact, I get up in front of the room sometimes and make an announcement that everyone should keep their phones on, because I'm used to our community, and we get these emergency phone calls from doctors or teachers or schools or caregivers, and they're really more important than the minor inconvenience of having interruptions. So we certainly appreciate and understand that.
Right. Well, you guys are awesome. Thank you Nancy has stepped out now. And so I wanted to talk just briefly about, you were saying about the things that you do in the autism community, and how you had this person, you gave them the job that had some significant challenges, and how excited they were. I want to know what happened.
So she's working for me still today. This was in January of 2007, and she still works with us.
And you had a second person.
And then we had
also.
a second person, right, who we hired, and then we did this who's still here. So he started the following January. We brought this to the Chicago office, to the Washington office, and to our London office, and it's been a great success, and people behave better in front of them. Everyone is very thoughtful in front of them and wants to be their best, wants to be the best person they can be. So they do a fine job. They do a very good job in what they do and what we need them to do. They've expanded some of what they do. You know, we taught the first person how to bind documents and to do, you know, different things. The other person actually can take the subway and make deliveries and set up computers and do different things. He also happens to be the top Avon salesman in his, you know, area.
Oh, wow.
And he was, you know, the the captain of our softball team, did lots of different things, so that the two of them are really great here. We have had several people with special needs who work here, and it is always a plus for the work that they do, which is not charity work, it is real, true work that's needed, plus the impact they have on the other employees. That's really very special and meaningful, and raises everybody up. So we're big supporters of hiring people with special needs.
And in addition to the bookstore, I serve on several autism boards, but two in particular. One is a place called Spectrum 360, which is a special needs school with about 250 students. We've got about 100 people in the day program right now. And then also something called the Friendship Circle that you may have out in LA chapter as well. And we're opening a 53,000 square foot special needs center called Lifetown that should be open any day now. And we're opening up our second branch of our bookstore there. But when you hear about Lifetown, that's going to be something really to check out. I expect to be a national news story. The National Football League and New York Jets have donated a professional football field there that we're going to be having special needs leagues, sports leagues, and their bowling alley and swimming and all kinds of stores and activities.
So it's like inside of it is a world where you have a bookstore, you'll have a pet store, you'll have a bank, different places where people where people can get trained sort of on how to work in how to navigate the real world.
And we'll be bringing the community in, so there will still be an integrated setting because we have 800 teen volunteers, for example, who work every week at the with the Friendship Circle, and we bring in families and typical kids for birthday parties and things like that.
We have to have you do a live thing from Lifetown once it's open.
Yes, be happy to do it.
We have to do that. And there'll be another bookstore there. So we're running out of time. How can people support this bookstore and this movement and buy books from you guys?
Well, you're welcome to shop at wordsbookstore.com. We'd love that. And you can also, thank you, and you can also email me at jonah@wordsmaplewood.com if you want to talk more about the bookstore.
Promise me that you'll come back and we'll do a live feed from Lifetown.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Perfect.
fabulous.
Thank
We
you.
adore you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We're so excited. We'll have you back again.